Thank you.
As we reported, some of the president's staunchest allies stood behind his actions in the Oval Office today. But Ukraine supporters within the Republican Party have expressed concerns about how that meeting played out. Joining me now to discuss is Republican Congressman Mike Lawler. He's a member of the House Foreign Affairs Committee. Congressman, welcome back to the NewsHour. You said in a statement after that White House meeting that it was a missed opportunity for both countries. What did you mean by that?
Well, this was a inflection point, certainly today, and an opportunity for greater economic cooperation between the United States and Ukraine. And ultimately, with that would have come greater security cooperation because you would have had U.S. investment on the ground moving forward. You would have had U.S. personnel there. And ultimately, obviously, I think once a ceasefire agreement reached, it would have been extremely difficult for Vladimir Putin to go back on that. We can still salvage this, and it needs to be salvaged because obviously failure here would be catastrophic for Europe and the free world. If Vladimir Putin is successful and does, in fact, ultimately seize control of Ukraine, that would have devastating consequence for years to come, but especially for Eastern Europe. So, from my vantage point, this was a missed opportunity. Diplomacy is tough, and sometimes there's going to be tension and disagreement, and the sausage making is ugly. But this was just unfortunate that it spilled out into public view
Yes.
as they work through some of the disagreement.
Well, for it to play out so publicly and on live television, we know everyone, including the Russians, were watching, and many of them are very happy, expressing real pleasure after that whole incident. Why do you think they're so happy? What message do they receive from that meeting today?
Well, because a deal wasn't reached. A deal between the United States and Ukraine is most certainly not in Russia's best interest. And so, the only winner here today was Vladimir Putin and Russia because a deal did not come to be, which is also why I believe it's critically important for President Zelensky and President Trump to get back together and work towards finalizing an agreement. Because when this conflict does come to an end, and it will at some point, when it comes to an end, Ukraine is going to need significant U.S. and European investment to rebuild. And this agreement starts to put that framework together. And that obviously is vital to ensure their structural sovereignty moving forward.
You seem to be saying we're further away from a deal now than we were before that meeting, for sure. And I should point out that President Trump repeated this false claim in that meeting. He said other places about the amount of aid that's been given to Ukraine by the U.S. We've heard him repeat the Russian propaganda that Ukraine started the war. Are you concerned that his views, that U.S. policy is now being based on disinformation? And if so, how does that get you back to a deal?
Look, I've been very clear that Vladimir Putin invaded Ukraine. This was an unprovoked war of aggression by Putin,
Yes,
who
sir, but
has
that's not what
committed
President
numerous
Trump
war
has been
crimes
saying, correct?
throughout. And, well, respectfully, who has committed numerous war crimes throughout. What President Trump is seeking to do is ultimately reach a ceasefire and bring this conflict to an end. I think it's very clear that the longer this conflict continues, the more precarious place that Ukraine is in. Getting Putin to the table is no small task. And obviously, given the last 3 years and the lack of communication with the United States and many of our allies, getting him to the table is paramount if you're going to get an actual ceasefire and get a long-term agreement. I think that's President Trump's objective as he works to bring this conflict to an end, while supporting Ukraine economically and having a agreement that, frankly, is in both our nation's interest. This is not easy in terms of both the diplomatic effort, but also obviously ending a conflict in which you're dealing with Vladimir Putin, who has proven himself to be a vile dictator and thug for decades. So there's a lot of work ahead. And I think it is imperative that we get President Zelensky back to the table with President Trump and finalize this agreement.
Republican Congressman Mike Lawler, a member of the House Foreign Affairs Committee. Congressman, thank you for being with us. Appreciate your time.
Thank you.